Once Human, a new open-world horror survival shooter, kinda like everything mixed into one, just hit the market. It's got a good player base, but a lot of mixed reviews. So what's really going on with this game? So this is my first impression of Once Human. I've played it for around 8 hours so far. I'm gonna be as honest as I can, but truthful across the board. A post-apocalyptic shooter, explorer, crafter, builder, and a loot survival game, set in a world ruined by an alien virus Stardust, giving monsters life to basically everything. And I mean everything. Everything is a monster. It could be a briefcase monster. It could be a satellite dish monster. But to be honest, that to me is pretty awesome. I'd actually like to see them continue this on because it gives you kind of like endless possibilities on what they could design and what models they could use, because you can use literally everything in the world and turn it into like something. So right off the rip, there is a story, which is always good and always helps you kind of understand the world a little bit. But I have to say a little bit because it was kind of vague in most parts, but it did explain somewhat of a story. The tutorial was kind of like a random, and it was like, it had very low value in my opinion. I don't know about you guys. It wasn't as thought out as some of the games I've seen. So I think they could have literally maybe tried to think it out just a little bit better to give a better first impression on the game, because some people might quit at that because it was just like long for no reason and it just didn't really make sense. But it did help you learn the basic controls and basic things about the game. But I mean basic, like the game has so many layers, and that only taught you kind of the basics, and you kind of start learning more as you go along when you're in the actual game world. So I'm gonna warn you guys, if you're looking for a game that's super easy and you can just come right into it and know everything, this might not be for you. This is gonna be for players who are looking for like a long-term game to play for over a long period of time, because it does take a little bit to get your knowledge around everything that's going on. So now let's talk about the first big negative thing, the privacy requirements. You probably heard about it already. That's what everyone is kind of talking about, because you're gonna have to do some third-party EULA like requirements and authentication to actually play the game. But the thing is, I think people are taking this totally out of context, because it's nothing more than anyone else it's doing. It's kind of like a little bit weird because it's like, it's a big pop-up for some people, but it all depends on your governing body, your governing state, what country do you live in. All those laws have to be abided by, and that's what the company is doing, in my opinion. And to be honest, when we're looking at games like Valorant and other games that literally make you change things to give them weird access to your console or your PC, kernel level anti-cheats. Some of these games have anti-cheats that are literally going into your device and are reading it like a book. So why are we kind of mad about this? And hey, look, if it is something that you care about, and if your cybersecurity and your cyber life and data is something you really care about, do look into this, because it might kind of steer you away from the game. But in my opinion, look, I've been around the internet since I was a little kid, bro. Look, Facebook probably leaked my data like 10 years ago. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, and we would never know. Every company's had data breaches. Even Google has had data breaches. So who are we to say our data isn't already out there and then just coming on to bash this game because of data protection stuff? I'm sorry, your data's probably been sold on the black market before. And then on launch, the game is pretty smooth. The character creation is really in-depth for a free-to-play game. It kind of reminds me of like in-depth MMORPG creations, which is kind of really nice to have on a free-to-play game. And also it gets you into loving the character and getting attached to the character when you're going to be using this character for your whole gameplay, especially if you make the character look like you. The models are actually kind of really nice. Like, there were so many options. I even had a tattoo option to like literally replicate my mold to make it look more like me. I hope they add like do-rags or something, you know, so like. But now we have to point this out. If this is your first time playing or launching, be careful, because for now, you can only have one character, and that character is kind of stuck on the world you choose. So if you choose a server, you're locked in for life. So when you're making your character and when you're choosing a server, be very careful. If you're doing it with a bunch of friends, be very careful. And then now, after you finish that tutorial, you've made your character, you've done a little early game playthrough, you get thrown into the real world. And the real world, I just mean the actual in-game world where other players are going to be around and you can actually interact with the world in its full. It did get a bit long, I can't lie. All the cutscenes and things, before you can actually go and do anything, you have to talk to these people, and all these cutscenes were actually very long, and I actually just found myself skipping through a lot of it. My first day of logging in, I did run pretty smoothly and I had like no hiccups, but then the next day, like it's like the start of the weekend. I tried to log on and there was a lot, and I mean a lot of lag. I had to switch instances a couple of times to actually get a smooth player experience with no lag and everything like that. It is kind of rainy around where I live, so maybe that affected it a little bit more. If you've had issues like that, let me know, because I think it might be a thing of stability with the servers right now. But again, the performance was pretty decent, and I had all my settings on like super high, so like it was pretty decent across the board. And I've noticed one thing, okay? The game is a little hard to get used to. It's got a lot, and that's coming from someone with over 30,000 hours on survival games across the last 10 years, and I still found it a little bit hard to get used to. But then once you got used to it, it just kind of like clicked, and it's in your brain, in your mind, and you're like, oh, I get it now. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, maybe 3-4 hours, and after that, you kind of know where everything is, and then the longer you go on, the more comfortable you get with the system and the layout of things. It's kind of like the same as everything else. It just looks differently and it's been placed differently. You kind of want to imagine like a Rust, Days Gone, blended in with some DayZ, 7 Days to Die, sprinkle some Scum, then you kind of have Once Human. But it's a little bit more childish, I feel, because they had so much chances to do things with gore and things, but they kind of reeled it back. I do know they were kind of trying to abide by some countries' laws and things when it came to blood and violence and like things like that. So I get it, and it also gets you to a wider audience. You can put the age range a little bit lower, which is, again, they're trying to make money. It is what it is. The meshes and the animations were really high quality, which is always good for any game in this era. But then I have to mention that that's mostly from afar. In close-up shots, things weren't all so pretty, which didn't really impress me, because when you had the cutscenes and things and you were like super close up on characters' faces and things, some of them looked very flat. Like it was like you could see through some of their hair. The textures were looking like 2D textures on 3D meshes, and I was playing on full graphics, but I did have it on 1080p. But again, when we're talking about things like this and when we're nitpicking, we need to understand that this is a free game. They had so much of a budget, and it's, again, a free game. You don't have to pay anything for it. So all these little things can be fixed and improved in the future. So we can't really be nitpicking and pulling apart everything when we got this for free. One of the biggest things for me is I have to commend the realism. This game brings a whole new meaning to realism in games. I felt like I was immersed and I don't even have a VR headset on. For instance, the clothes, the buildings, the meshes, the things that got me hooked on games like DayZ were all right here. If we stripped away all the monsters, this game was super realistic. Even down to like the weapons and the buildings, it just looked real. When you did things, it looked real. The way you jumped over structures, real. It just felt real. The way the bikes worked, everything you did kind of just felt real. And there's just a lot to do. Like the game gives you the whole package, and I like that. We like games that give you the full package, and this game is a free game that gives you the full package. That is just crazy. Like, where did you come from? You can craft things, you can build your own base and house, and this game has all of that all in one. The blueprint system is pretty awesome, where you can unlock different parts of a blueprint, then you put that all of them together, then you get an actual blueprint and you can use that blueprint. So it has so many layers, and that's good for players like me, for instance, who I love grinding. I love spending hundreds of hours on the same game. But one really big W that got me was the fact that you can literally move your base. So basically, if you have a base build and you're in an area, this area is full of people, it's getting overcrowded, you found a new spot that has no one there and you want to move, and you're like, okay, how am I going to move all my structures? I have to build a new base, I have to go farm for more material. You don't. You literally don't. You can literally go to a new spot and you can literally just migrate your base over. Like, it literally just brings your base over. And to make it even better, you can have multiple base designs and save them as blueprints, and you can just build them from the saved data. As long as they're somewhere, you can just migrate it over, which is great. It's super great. So if you're on PvP and you're being trolled by toxic players, and you know they're gonna come and raid you, just move your base the next day. You can literally go wherever you want, which is great. Like we need more of this. Like, more games need to do this. It's a very great concept, and I'm actually really impressed by it. The game also does have a kind of pet follower system. Like, they have these little deviant creatures that you can catch them in the wild, or you can get them from like harvesting things. And it's pretty awesome because it kind of gives you the automated gameplay where you can have some of these deviant pets can literally farm for you while you're away. Some of them can defend you in battle, and some of them can attack for you in battle. So it's kind of like you have a little like PAL kind of thing, kind of like the Power World and Ark thing, where you have something that you can use in combat or use in defense, and they also do some mining for you. So it's kind of okay, and it gives you the gotta catch them all. You can go out and say, okay, I want to catch every single deviation that exists in the game. I want to catch it, and it's a little thing of like a collector's kind of thing, which is good because it gives you more things to grind for, more play hours. You know what I'm saying? The game also does offer a PvE PvP and a PvE mode, which is always good because then it gives the players the options to jump between or have a choice to, if they ever wanted to, switch between the game modes. So now the quest system. The quest system is kind of pretty nice as you get your basics things you have to do, like, you know, you get rewarded items for doing things. There's item drops from mobs, not so many items, but there is a few items from the lower end mobs, which is always good because it helps you like progress slowly. And then you get your big drops from the big bosses, and you also have loot crates you can go find in certain areas. So this is where the looter aspect comes in. You can be exploring around the map, you can be picking things up, picking up items from mobs and finding these loot crates. So it kind of splits things up when you're doing the mission. So if you're doing a mission and you're kind of getting bored, you can just go around and start looting and do different things while fighting the mobs that spawn in the wild. I would like to see a little bit more mobs spawn in the wild that you can kill and a little bit more variation, because they're kind of like the same 4 or 5 things I see all the time. Maybe it's because I'm in the lower end areas, but right now it's kind of like the same similar things. I don't know if they're going to change that and make it a little bit more, like, give us more variant in the starting zone so players don't get like, I keep seeing the same mobs. And the bosses during the quest. So the bosses were set up very like MMORPG almost. It was kind of like an easy Souls game, which I liked, and more games need to do this. When you have bosses that spawn in an area or an arena, can we please have intros for the bosses? Showcase the boss, showcase the mesh, showcase how it looks, and just give it something. This game did it perfectly. Then it gave off a roar. Then we went to fight it. Most games just throw you in there, the boss is spawning, rah, we're fighting. There's no intro. I want to see more of this. It just gives you a little bit of background to every single boss you're trying to fight. And now let's talk about the voice acting, okay? The voice acting was good, but the video sync was very sloppy. Very, very sloppy. Let's not lie about it, okay? Every time you're sitting there playing and you're talking to any of these NPCs, you get the cutscenes and you look at their lips and they don't sync at all. They're not syncing at all. Their lips barely move. It's like they don't have like much texture. And for a game that came out in 2024, the meshes, like when you're looking at them properly, they look like a mesh from like a 2016 game. I'm sorry, but the meshes are like, I don't know, they're like low quality once you start looking at them properly, but from afar, they look really great. Then you look at them properly and it's like, Like I will say, the character you create and the character creation like zone and customization, that looks very high quality, but the in-game NPCs, And so far we have a motorcycle. So we have vehicles already. We get given a motorcycle, which is pretty nice. It helps you move around. But one thing I have to say, and this just blew my mind because we don't get it that often, the motorcycle had music. Vehicles with music where you can listen to a radio station while you're going along feels nice. It gives you another layer of realism and it just helps. Everything like this really helps. I was really impressed by this because as a musician, like I love music. Music is what I do. So hearing music just makes you feel a little bit better. So there is a store in the game. From now, I look through it and I'm like, okay, most of it looks cosmetic. There doesn't look like anything you can buy that helps your gameplay. It just all makes you look nice. So it's not pay to win, it's pay to look good, which is not bad at all. The prices are steep in some areas, as in like the bigger packs do cost near the $100 kind of thing. But we have to say that when you pay that much for these packs in this game, it's a thing of you can get a lot of things for the amount of coins you get for this purchase. So it's not like, oh, you're paying all that money for one thing or one pack. You can get so many different little things to add to your game collection, which is good because it's not like the First Descendants where you're paying $100 for one pack for one descendant and one descendant only. Like you actually get a lot of things, and you can even buy a whole pack for like roughly around $20 worth of game purchase. So that's not bad at all in my opinion. We're gonna finish this video talking about the whole one character situation. This is the biggest problem about the whole game. Like it is really just honestly the biggest problem about the whole game. So as you know, when you make a character, it's locked to the server you choose on first creation. Now the real bad part is sometimes the servers have a waiting list. I have never seen this before except for like on a matchmaking game. The server has a waiting list and you could be waiting up to 20, 30, 40 minutes to be let into your server. And because you're stuck to one server, you can only wait on your server, and that's that. So it all depends on how many people play your server, how active is your server. And let's say you're waiting in line and it says you were 100th in the line, wait time 5 minutes. Then your PC says and then you crash or your game crashes. You're starting again. Sorry buddy, deal with it. And that has a lot of people mad, which again I get, because it's like, why do I have to wait to get in the server? Like at least show me how many people are on the server so I know if I can join or not. But then I'm locked to the server, and when you're locked to the server, it's like, I have nowhere else to go. I can't go anywhere. If you're on a PvP server and someone is trolling you or messing with you, deal with it. You're not going anywhere. So it kind of like opens up a can of worms, which I'm not too impressed by, but a new game with around 70 to 100,000 people playing at any time. I can use Ark as an example, and basically when a new map launches or something, Ark is always capped out 70 out of 70. And I see a lot of players where it's like, okay, this server is capped out 70 out of 70. My character's there, but I'm gonna hop to the next server. I'm gonna try to enter that server. And let's say they click on join just before you do, and they have better internet or faster computer or faster console. They're gonna get in and you're not gonna get in. Even if you're on that server and that's your main server, your character's level 50 or whatever, and they're just server hopping. But now if they were stuck to the server that they had their character on, you didn't have to battle with them for that spot. If your server was just your server and they weren't in the pool and you didn't have to battle for them, you get into your server. So people can't have multiple servers just hopping, taking other players' spots in the queue. I think that's a reasonable thing in my opinion. When you're playing the PvP portion of the game, you only have to fight people from your server. You will never get new people who are just going on a server-wide conquest with like 20 guys to just go and destroy every server and kill everybody. You're going to only fight the people on your server, which means one thing: relationships are going to mean a lot more, because these are the people you're going to be with for your whole time playing the game. So if you have a bad relationship, they're gonna team you. But now, if you completely don't see anything good about this, what are the reasons why you don't find it cool or you find it bad? Like, let me know, because I find it like a thing where it's like 50-50 good and bad. I have to say and commend them on the ambient music. It is really nice. I do like music is a big thing for me, as I said. I love the ambient music. I love the intro music. The music they use for the freaking intro cutscene. That really got me into the mood of playing a horror, thrilling kind of survival game. So that was pretty awesome. So I do like that. The game packs a lot of play value to keep players entertained. There's a lot to do. The immersion is great, so it kind of gets you right into the game. The survival aspects baked in makes it just so much more fun. Look at me, look at me. I am super excited about playing this game. I normally don't get excited about playing games, but because it has so many things that I like baked into the same game, I'm not too mad. And I think I'm going to spend a lot of hours on this game. Don't tell Ark, because I'm going to be playing a lot of this game, but don't tell Ark. But it's okay. And to be honest, if we see this character lock kind of lifted in the future, I think the more casual players will come back and play the game, because it gives them more freedom and gives them more choices to do. And I feel like this will get more players in, and more players aren't going to be scared because they're like, okay, I'm going to be locked in here and I can't restart. But yeah, that's my overall first impression. I kind of want to see how this goes because it's an actual entertaining game. I've played it for a couple of hours. I'm having fun, still having fun. So I want to know what you guys think about the game. This is going to be like a longish video, but hey, just watch it. If you came here, I appreciate y'all. But now let me know what you guys think about the game. Do you agree with some of the things I said? Do you not agree with some of the things I said? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget, if you're new here, this is your first time here, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.